Hi, and thank you for attending today's training where I will be covering how to use the Energise portal. So as you can see, this is the home page of your portal. This is a test account, but it looks exactly the same way your portal will look. So firstly, I'm just going to cover the information that is supplied on the home page. So just towards the top, you've got your account management team, so the team that you fall under, and then a button for contact information. So if we select that, it just gives you an overview of who your account manager are, the partner support who look after you, and who your admin person is. It's also got the relevant email inboxes that you would use, and a contact number, and just some general information. So that's where you would find out who is currently responsible for your accounts. So a little bit below there, we've got the list of your current empty homes, which as you can see here is 78. And directly below that, we've got a bar chart which shows you how many voids are currently showing on your portal. So this only shows a list of properties that are currently void. It doesn't show any voids on notice or properties that have since become tenanted. And if you hover over each chart, you can see you've got 2 voids on this portal showing under 30 days old. There's nothing in between 30 and 60 days and nothing between 60 and 90 days. And if we hover over 90 days, we can see there is 76. This is a great way of getting a snapshot of how many voids are on the portal against how many voids you currently have to make sure that they all match up. And if there are any big variances there, it's worth reaching out to your account manager because something isn't working somewhere within the process of making sure your portal is up to date. And just below that, we've got the how to log your ticket guide. So if we select that, that will open up another page, and this is a guide of all the information that we require for different ticket types that you may raise. So as you can see, we've got guides for many different types of tickets that you may use. So just go into one of them for an example. So as you can see, for an electric RTI, it covers when an electric RTI may be required, what information is required for us within the ticket, and a little bit more information further down. On this one, it gives you the meaning of each screen for a prepayment meter, so you can see exactly what each reading means on the meter, where you would add the information on our portal and what it would look like, and finally the actions that we will take when the ticket is raised and what we will do for you. The key thing really here to stress around tickets is the amount of information you provide on that ticket. The more information you can supply for us, the easier it makes it for us to be able to get the ticket actioned and resolved first time, rather than going back to you asking for more information. So the more details you can include in the ticket when you log it, the easier it will be for our team to get that actioned first time. So it is always useful having this open and referring back to it when you're logging a ticket on the portal. So going back to your home page, so that's the key elements of the front screen. On the left hand side, you've got a few tabs, and I will go into these in a bit more detail, but a very brief overview. The property directory tab, that lists every single property that's ever been added onto your portal, be it a current void, a void on notice, or a property that has since become tenanted. It's also where you'd go to add a new property onto the portal. Just below that, we have the void property, and that will be a list of properties that are current void. So it won't show any on notice or any that have since become tenanted. And the final one that you'll need is the help desk. Now that one is where you can see any open and outstanding tickets you've got against any of your properties. So what I'm going to cover first is how to add a property onto the portal when it's either on notice or a void without notice. And to start that, we go into the property directory tab on the left hand side. So this is what you can see, and as I mentioned, it's got a list of all the properties that have ever been added to the portal, and just below that is where you add the new property. Now before you add a property, it's always worth just using the search function in the top corner to make sure that the property you are looking to add onto the portal hasn't already been added by somebody else, or it hasn't been a void previously. And all you do is you start typing the address, whatever it may be, and as you can see, as we type down, it filters down how many records are there that match what we're searching for. So it's always worth checking there first, and if there's no results at the address you've got, at that point you would then scroll down and update the portal with the exact details of the property that you would like to do. So if we start doing this now, so just populate the details of the address on the left hand side and then fill the information in on the right hand side. We'll start off with the expected void date. Now ideally you would be adding a void on notice, so this would be a date in the future, but if you are adding a property where you weren't given any notice, you would just select the relevant date of when that property did become empty. So for this one we will just do it in a month's time, for the 30th of July. Just below that, the next two boxes are the MPAN and the MPRN number. So what they are, the MPAN is a meter point administration number, and that is a unique number related to the electricity supply within that property. Now that number will never change, even when meters are exchanged, the MPAN number stays exactly the same. The MPRN is the meter point reference number. Now again, it's exactly the same as the MPAN, but that's in relation to the gas. If you know these numbers, please fill them in. If you're not sure what they are, just leave it blank, it's not a problem, but if you know it, just pop it in. Below that, we just fill in the information for how many beds are in the property and the type of property you've got, and then any access instructions. So it could be, you know, that property will have a key safe, and you can put the key safe in the code. The reason we need that information is if we're going to get smart meters installed, we'll need to know the access instructions, or if there's a faulty meter that you log an issue with, we'll need to know how to access that property. Now, if you don't know at this point what the access instructions would be, just leave it blank. It's there if you know it. And just below that, we've got the property notes. Now for this one, this is anything that you feel we might find beneficial knowing about that property. So it may be something like the electricity supply powers a stair lift, so you need a permanent supply of electric. Anything that you feel we would benefit from knowing, just pop in there. It's just a standard property, nothing special about it. You can just leave it blank, but the option is there for anything you feel we would be useful knowing. Once we've filled all that in, we just hit the create button, and it takes us to this screen. So as you can see at the top, every property gets a unique property number. It's got the property address, and it will have this information filled in as and when it's filled in, when it's created, what the partner name is. Now all this information here below, we are currently looking under the void notification tab. That's what it automatically takes you to. Now this is where you would update as much information as you may know. Now I do appreciate if you are adding a property on notice, you may not know who the supplier is or what the type of meter is installed to that property, and if you don't know, leave it blank. And if the gas has no gas supply, there is the option of selecting no gas. I am just going to populate something in there for now. So all I've done is select a supplier and the type of meter. Again, you've got the option here of putting the MPAN and the MPRN if you know it, and just below that the meter serial number. Again, all you've got to do is fill in as much information as you've got available. If you don't know the information, just leave it blank. You've also got the option of updating who the water supplier is and the local council. Now this is an optional service that we supply. What would happen if you fill this in? When you hit save, it would generate a letter from our server directly to the water supplier or the local council or both, advising them the date that the property is due to become empty. And at the back end of the whole process, when you update resident moving in details, it would also then generate another email to be sent to the suppliers advising that the property has become tenanted and needs to be closed down in your name. That is completely optional whether or not you utilise that service, but it is something there that you can use. If you don't want to use it, just leave it as blank. If you do, again, just select from the drop down menu. Once we've filled in everything we know, just hit the save button. The next one, if we move along, is the void period tab. So if we click that one, it will bring up this page here. Now this is where you add meter reads in at the property. Now again, I appreciate if you're adding a property on notice, you may not know the meter reads. You can add them in at a later time and I'll show you how to do that shortly. Now just to make you aware, this page can look slightly different. So I selected that the electric, for instance, was a prepayment key meter. So you've got the options of putting meter reads A through to T. If you selected, for instance, a standard build meter, you wouldn't have all these fields to fill in. You'd only have like read 1 or read 2. You wouldn't. So this page will look slightly different dependent on the meter type, but do exactly the same thing. Just for clarity, the electric is highlighted by a little lightning bolt and the gas by a little flame. Once we fill that information, we hit save. Now that, as you can see, it says the switch has been saved successfully, and every time you fill in information on the portal, always hit the save button. So if you don't do so, you may lose the information that you have input into the system. So that is how we add a property onto the portal. So now this is going to show within our property directory as a new property. So we'll now go back and I will show you how we update information on a property already on the portal. So we go into the property directory and utilising the search option, if we start typing, as you can see, there's the property I've just created. You would then click on the address and that will bring you back to this page which you will have just seen. Now if you go into the void period tab, you can amend the expected void date. So if you've got the keys back early or the resident extends their notice period, that's where you'd update that. And you would also, once the properties became empty, you would fill in all the meter reads that are on the system and hit the save button. So that is how we update meter reads and change a expected void date. So what I'm going to show you now is how we log a ticket on the portal. So again, we go into the property directory and we search for the property that you would like to add a ticket on. Using the search box, whittle down the results and select on the relevant property. And now we will go over to the grey box that says ticket and we will go on there. Now you've got a drop down menu of different subjects. Here it's really helpful if you can select the most relevant option based on the type of ticket that you are adding. So if we were just doing to debt on a meter or a faulty meter, whatever is most relevant for the type of ticket you are logging, select from the drop down menu. Now we've got the box below that where we just need to put in the details of the ticket. And as I mentioned, you've got the how to raise a ticket guide that gives you all the information, which we opened from the home page and left open. Now, as I mentioned, the more information you can supply here, the easier it will be for the partner support team to get your query resolved first time. So if we just populate So all I've done for this one is there's a £15 debt on the electric meter, the meter reads have already been added to the portal, and who to send the RTI code to. Now, if for whatever reason you haven't included the meter reads on the portal already, you can put them in the ticket itself. The main thing is we get that information, because suppliers won't provide RTI codes to clear the debt on a meter, for instance, if they don't have a full set of meter reads. So at that point, we will hit the save button, and you get a pop-up saying that the ticket has been added successfully. And on the left-hand side, if we select the help desk option, you can now see there is a ticket against the address that we've just been into, and you can select that ticket and see exactly what the ticket is for. Now, one thing we do want is all energy issues being logged as one ticket. We wouldn't want to have, like the ticket I've just done was just for the electric supply. If we was to contact the supplier and say we're on hold to a supplier for an hour getting an issue with the electric resolved, and then we find out further down the line there's also another ticket being logged for the debt on the gas meter, we've then got to start that process again of reaching out to the supplier. So it's really important that you put all the energy queries on one ticket, and like I've done here, if you have only put one part of information on the ticket and you realise there's also a debt on the gas meter or something else that needs doing, you can go back into the ticket by selecting it and put in any additional information you've got. So you might also put £20 gas on the debt on the gas meter, provide the meter reads or the reads on the portal, hit the add comment button, and this then pops up on the ticket. Now, this is a live system, so as soon as you add a comment, that comment then becomes visible to our partner support team. So they will be able to pick up any additional comments, any additional requests you add within a ticket. So that is how we log a ticket onto the portal. So what I want to show you now is how we do a resident move-in. So for this, we'd go into the Void Property tab and find the property on the portal. Now, like I say, this tab will only show you properties that are currently void. It won't show voids on notice. So if I search for the property I've just added, it won't come up on this list because it's a void in the future. For now, I will just select this one. We'll say we were searching for 888 Test Road. As you can see, it's whittled the results down from 78 to 7. We'll select the one we want, and it'll take you to the screen that looks like this. Now, as you can see, some of it is now greyed out because it's all being updated correctly with the information that you would have left blank if you didn't know. We would now go into the Void Period tab, and this is where we would add any closed meter reads. So when the meter reads that were taken when the sign up was done or when the viewing was done. And we just need to fill in the resident information. Now, there are two parts here. So you've got everything with a red asterisk. That is a mandatory field and has to be filled in. Anything with a blue asterisk, that requires at least one of the fields to be filled in. Now, when it comes to putting in the residency start dates, we ideally need all properties or all move-ins added to the portal within the first 24 hours of that property becoming tenanted. So, being the 30th of June today, I wouldn't expect anything to be added earlier than the 29th. Now, if you're filling this in ready for a property that's due to become tenanted next week, you can put the relevant date in, but ideally, we shouldn't be putting anything older than 24 hours in here. So we select the date that the residents moved in, and now we just need to fill in one of the blue asterisks. Now, if you have got an email and a mobile number, you can of course fill in more than one. Just as a minimum requirement, we need at least one of these fields filling in. So once that's all filled in, we hit the save button. And as you can see now, the void period tab has gone green, and that's basically saying that this property has now been logged as a tenanted property. So that now gives you the option as well of using the generate letter button, and by selecting that button it will open a new window which will take the information that is on the portal and put it into letter form that you can use as part of your handover for the property. So as you can see, it's got the name that we've put onto the portal, the full address. It will also populate based on the information that we filled on the portal, who the current supplier is, the type of meter that's in that property, and the contact number for the supplier. Obviously these are blank because it is a fake address, but it would show the actual supplier and type of meter that's at that property that you was doing. So that there would be filled in, and it's always recommended that a new resident reaches out to their supplier just to make sure the account is set up in their name. They can discuss the tariff that they're currently on and what the payment options are as well. Now if we scroll down, there's a few question and answers, and then there is also a link. Now your link will look nothing like this, it'll be much smaller and much tidier, but what this link is, it takes you to what we call your landing page. Now I'll show you how it would look. So this is a test one, and as you can see it's a much tidier and shorter website. Every one of our partners has their own unique site, and it would have your organisation's logo on there as well to say it isn't just Energy Angels, it will have your organisation's logo and name on there as well. So this is what we call our landing page. To the right hand side, as you can see, you've got the option to click compare and save. Now this will take you through to a completely impartial price comparison service where you can check what tariffs are currently available on the market to ensure the resident is on the best tariff available for them. Unfortunately, because of how the energy market is at the moment, there aren't many options available to new residents, and the majority of price comparison services currently aren't doing any energy comparisons. But as soon as the market steadies itself out, that option will then become available again. We've also wrote a number of blogs and provided a little bit of information about what's going on in the industry at the moment. So it's really useful for people to have a read through this information, see exactly what is available. And what is really useful here, we've got information around the warm home discounts, links to people like Citizens Advice, Step Change, National Deadline if you're concerned about paying your bills, links for what additional funding may be available for residents. So this is a really useful tool that we've put together just for the residents to have a read through, make sure they're understanding of what's going on in the market and exactly what is out there and available for them. So as I mentioned, you access all that through the generate letter button under the void period. So what we've just done there then is now made this property completely closed down. It's now a residented property. It's no longer a void. You'll no longer have the need to raise any tickets. But if in the future, if this property was to become void again, you wouldn't have to add the property onto the portal for a second time. So what you would do, you would go into the property directory and you would search for the property, and as you can see, there's the property. If nothing comes up, obviously the property's never been on the portal and you'd add it as a new property. But because we can see this property is already on the portal, you'd click on the address and you have the option in the bottom right hand corner of closing the current journey. Now by closing that journey, it will ask you to confirm that you wish to close that journey. That will then take away any option of logging any tickets against this journey, generating the resident letter. So just make sure that everything's done within that property. You've got nothing else to add from the previous void period before you close that journey, and then you select OK. And now, as you can see in the top right hand corner, you have the option of starting a new journey. And if we select that, this then takes you back to the page we saw after we've added a new property. It's all blank, all ready to be filled in again. You just need to go to the void period tab and select the new expected void date. So again, ideally that would be in the future because we're adding voids on notice, and then we would hit the save button. That property now is on the portal, ready to become a new void from the 30th of July. So that is basically everything you will need to use the Energise portal for. Just to give you a brief overview of what we've covered. At the top, you've got the account management team and the contact information. Below that, you've got the amount of empty homes you've got and the bar chart showing you how many properties have been void for that period of time. And below that, you have the guide on how to log your tickets correctly. Property directory, that is where you can search your existing properties and add any new properties that aren't already on the portal. You have the void property tab, which only shows you any current voids that are on the portal. And finally, you have the help desk tab, which shows you any open tickets you've got on any of your properties. So that is everything to do with the Energise portal. I want to thank you all for taking your time and watching this today. If you do have any questions or need any clarity on anything, please reach out to your account manager and they will be able to assist you further.